fuck with Naka. Hang on, as soon as you go back.
Actually, I think we're basically we're live again. So, all right.
Oh,
So,
whoops.
yeah, no, it's okay. Go ahead. So, yes,
I'm
sorry
just
about
saying.
that.
I'm just saying that nothing bad would happen if my character became a vampire, right?
Certainly not. Nothing but advantages.
Of course.
All the perks. Okay,
Let's ignore what could possibly happen when a vampire bloodline springs up around a scald. I'm sure that given the naturally mutable nature of the artificial vampirism you guys found, and that it's just springing up new bloodlines, isn't going to cause any kind of weird incidents when you start using Rage Song.
Oh, okay. All right.
For instance, I couldn't. Like, for instance, the fact that there's a Blood Rage variant of Rage that could potentially be passed on via... And, in fact, it's been already shown in the campaign that sound can have a physical effect on people.
There's nothing bad what could go wrong?
We definitely won't end up with a Pulse-style scenario where vampirism is being passed on via sound.
All right, so guys, we're back. We're back online. I'm really sorry. This is really annoying, but it shouldn't happen again, I don't think. Fucking toes crossed and shit.
Did your power go down again?
Yeah, it was.
Jesus.
I think it's the power strip. So I changed some things around. It probably won't be a problem. It's not because nothing else in the apartment turned off. So it must be the power strip. So I made some changes. It shouldn't go down again. And I'm really sorry. This is a really interesting topic for me, and I really enjoy doing it. So this was. I mean, you should have heard me when the shit turned off. I scared the shit out of my dogs that I'm like the ones that I'm watching as well as mine. They like left the room and they hid behind my wife because I was so fucking pissed. I was
hide
so pissed.
Hide your dogs. Hide your wife, or hide behind your wife, I guess.
Because I was fucking pissed. But okay, so we don't want to go for too much longer. But I believe that when the stream is over, everything will get stitched together. So you know, or I'll stitch it together so that way it's not like 3 different streams. That's so freaking ridiculous. So we were talking about the methodology. We kind of went through that. Now I think if there's nothing that you wanted to specifically speak to with regard, oh no, we were talking about the identity stuff. So
right, and I got through most of it. I think I taught you Avatar is. I think when you cut out Avatar
as me, which is basically where you say I would just be playing myself.
Sure. And the last and most rare one is Avatar as Other, wherein the player views themselves as a tool that is basically helping or assisting the Avatar in accomplishing his or her goals.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most interesting demographic to me, because I find those people fascinating. And they kind of, again, they fall in between the Avatar as me and Avatar as Other, the Avatar as symbiote people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting. We find these trends, and again, they are trait-like, meaning it doesn't happen in every instance, but people who tend to do it in one tend to do it in another. And I've certainly seen that with people I know who, you know, if they go online and they get to make a character, they make their character look exactly like them, and then they go and play an RPG and they play themselves, you know, if their avatar is me people. Or if their avatar is tool people, they don't give a shit. They'll make like some hideous monstrosity physically, and then just be like, I don't give a fuck as long as it's super powerful. I don't care about anything else. Mm-hmm. That's the tool based. What a tool!
Yeah. And I think that's because I know people who all 3 of those, and I would say that the Avatar as Other is seems to be the most uncommon, but
yes,
in many ways it's probably the most challenging to do. Because the people are really trying to put themselves in the shoes of someone else, someone foreign to them, and explore that. Whereas, you know, most of the time, from what my experience is, most people play either Avatar as symbiote or Avatar as me, or some combination, you know, thereof.
Or as tool, yeah, those are all far more common. Yeah, the actual interesting research is that when you embody an avatar that is different from you physically, even when you're given an avatar, and this is in a games environment or a digital body environment, produces prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
If you're put into the body of a black woman and you're a white man, it reduces implicit biases. And the fucking video that I did that just got deleted, that I'll have to redo now. I mean, everything's re-edit. is about how implicit biases don't really mean that much.
Yeah.
But we want to talk about reducing quote-unquote biases, embodying somebody who you're not and being forced to just be in that body. Oh, we find all kinds of fucking neato shit on this in video games in terms of when we put burn victims into a virtual reality headset and put them in a snowy field, they feel less pain. Yeah, your brain's a weird thing like that. And so embodiment and this embodiment is one of those words like making meaning, or terms like that social scientists use a lot that we don't always define well.
Right. Okay, and so what were the findings in the article? Do you want to say anything about the findings? I have it here. What they wrote: gender construction and representation in D&D. So I'll just read this bit here. Whether in basements, friends' living rooms, or the early gaming conventions organized by Gygax and friends, D&D was developed out of the wargaming communities comprised largely of white men. It's capitalized white for some reason. Their complex rule systems and their toys. By the time the first rulebook of D&D was released, the male-dominated genre, despite the game being playtested by Gygax's daughter, erased female gamers from within the purview of the book.
I asked the question, how? I mean, can you not play as a female character in first edition D&D?
No, you absolutely can.
She exactly. So she's saying that because of the basis of this, that it constructed a system by which the future of the trajectory of the cultural development of this community, for whatever you want to call it, this social system, this magic circle, became incontrovertible or non-changeable, immutable, right? So, but at the same time, she admits that even in first edition, there's nothing about it that prevents you from playing as a woman. In the manuals themselves, there are women depicted as characters. It's just that she didn't like it. That would be my takeaway, and I normally don't like to take things like a paper such as this down into the most basic sort of analysis of that, but that does appear to be the ultimate takeaway.
Yeah.
Her quote here, this is actually from Fine 1983-65, as cited in this paper. Women as female characters have little importance. Male players comment that female characters should be treated as property and not as human beings.
What?
And this is a quote from Fine 1983, as cited in the current paper. That was, I believe, I don't have that data or that paper in front of me, but I believe that was also conducted through interview research on people. Although I don't know, 83. When was the first edition of D&D? Like 70? Is it 70 something? Yeah, I guess it's been the 70s. So he was conducting some very early research, and I guess he was talking to D&D players at that point in time.
Yeah.
I just, that was his takeaway, and that appears to be her takeaway as well, is that the system in which this exists is flawed inherent, and even if there are changes to it, it's still flawed inherent. Now, she does say, I think, going forward, what are her prescriptives? And then I want to hear some from Bill, because I know Bill had like unique notes about this.
Yeah, for sure.
Where are her prescriptives? They're down here. Okay. The cultural production and influence around a community must be explored. How individuals understand what happens within a gaming community, for example, is shaped and influenced by cultural factors external to the ecosystem being analyzed. In short, games are part of culture, and culture seeps into their environment. 2, the cultural production and influence from within systematic design of cultural artifacts must be explored. As illustrated in this study, the human biases and beliefs of individuals that construct systems are embedded within systems. These guide beliefs and influence specific, quote, cultural historical repertoires. So those are her
guides for future research.
That's about it.
Okay.
That's all
I have a super chat that I lost, but Heart Hewn
You got
Paladin.
one for 50, I think. If you didn't.
Oh my god, I didn't see it. Heart Hewn Paladin. If you guys, because like since my computer crashed, you got it. Okay, cool. I want to read Heart Hewn Paladin because he did send me a super chat. I don't know what the dollar amount was, but thank you for whatever it was. And he said, I said in my super chat that I was anxious around female gamers because we were talking about why some men might be apprehensive. I was anxious around female gamers as a teen because I was worried that they would judge me for being ugly, disgusting, or socially awkward. So he was concerned with, and I think that that's true too with a lot of guys that, you know, they at the same time they want more people to like what they like because, you know, they really want to share it with people and they can be a bit evangelist. But then there are others who, despite the fact that they want that, they're also afraid of, you know, the judgment because we are talking about a subset perhaps within the gaming community that feels, or they are sort of outcasts, you know, for one reason or another. And I was actually going to ask about, as related to that, is the kind of people who would take an interest in a game that is essentially mathematics. So, I mean, because I liked it, but go ahead, Bill.
Well, further to that, just thinking in the 80s and such, like, D&D was fairly heavily demonized by American media.
Right.
Moving into the 90s, where it stopped being about cults, essentially, and started being about a bunch of fucking nerds, which is probably close to the truth, but nevertheless somewhat denigrating, considering the subject matter. And, yeah, given the amount of, you know, investment required in terms of time, not many people of the era would probably be willing to, okay, you're going to need to read this book, which is thicker than a fucking Stephen King novel, in order to learn to play. Most people during that era is like, or I could just go out and do whatever the fuck.
Have some drinks, you know, fuck around. Like, yeah, I mean, it's the same thing today. Yeah. It's still, it requires a heavy time investment. And it's why you get people who are so incredibly passionate. Because because of the time investment.
You wouldn't get people be evangelical if they did not themselves detect that there was a somewhat negative preconception about the medium. Like, there's the assumption there that this is going to be a hard sell, so I'm going to have to fucking sell it. You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, okay, well, Aydin, could you give me the super chat? Because I really...
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
This is from Terry Butler for $50. Thank you very much, Terry. The earlier mention of sexual dimorphism made me spurg out and mention my distaste for people making fun of scientific ideas existing in fantasy games with dragons and magic, basically pretending that any degree of fantasy excludes any reality. If I'm understanding correctly, that would be that that we can't have reality within games. And no, I think that's actually very neat if there is a system in place that includes a more scientific sort of aspect within Pathfinder. But I think, well, what we were talking about a little bit when we went off, we were talking about Shadowrun, and that the thing about all of these games is that you can, to some extent, sort of, first of all, there's different environs in which some things might be more likely than others, things like hormones or scientific stuff over magic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, alchemy as a whole system has been very widespread in D&D, and moving to Pathfinder, it becomes more of a science. Like, you get actual breakdowns of what chemicals are in each alchemical item.
Wow. That's pretty dense. I think that when it comes to, you know, when they make that argument, because I've seen that a lot too, they say, in a world with magic and dragons, why do women have to be like women? Well, I think that there's a degree, something that it should be grounded in. Like, you know, the games also still have gravity, and you know, rocks are harder than marshmallows and things like that. You know, animals have ecology, and people want to know what that is. You know, that cold is cold, ice is cold, and fire is hot. So people want something to be grounded in. But
still, only in some instances. The thing that makes it interesting is that there's a possibility for something to move outside of that.
Absolutely.
And so it's like, yeah, okay, so in most circumstances, gravity exists in this context, but maybe it doesn't in others. And that's kind of the interesting thing about it, right?
Absolutely. And that's why when you run into an instance where there's no gravity, because the players are always expecting gravity, as we are in real life, that's when it becomes weird. That's when you're saying, oh, we're having an encounter with a zero gravity situation. So this is surprising us as bizarre, something, and it likely presents a challenge, which sometimes the challenges are actually in-game challenges, and sometimes they're simply like logic challenges. The players are experiencing something different, like a castle in the clouds, for example. You know, that they would wonder how that works, and you might just say, well, it's magic or whatever, but you don't want to maybe in your game you don't want to overexpose them to it, because you still want them to feel like things behave in a predictable way like our real world does, and occasionally undermine their expectations or throw them off by having something crazy happen.
Yeah, like for instance, it's like having a vampire who can tank a just full-on blast of sunlight. Like that needs to be that's the outlier. If you have it to the extent where it's the most common thing, or it's a crapshoot, whether it's one or the other, it really does mess with player expectation, but not in a positive way. It throws the rules to the wind rather than keep people guessing.
There's actually a social science theory. Aydin brings up a social science theory.
Well, that's why you're here.
Called expectancy violation theory. It's always fun because it means I get to use the word violate a whole lot. But expectancy violation theory basically posits that we have positively and negatively balanced expectancies of any given situation. Our expectancies are, quite simply, what do I think is going to happen in this instance? If it exceeds my expectations, then it's a positive violation. If it is worse than my expectations or what I'm anticipating, it's a negative violation. And what we find is people really, really enjoy the positive. Anything that in any way increases excitation can potentially be a positive violation, because it's making you more excited, and when it increases this excitation sort of thing, which would be more of Zillman's excitation transfer theory, you're looking at like it fairly consistently. Violating what people expect is what makes things entertaining.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you don't want it, like, to his point, you don't, if you do it too often, then
it becomes boring.
Yeah, it becomes boring in its own way, because people are like, well, I know you're not gonna. It's like M. Night Shyamalan. How many times did he add a twist to his movies before people said, okay, this movie has a twist? So they just stopped caring, or they tried to figure out what the twist was before the film even came out. You know, because you get to a point where it's like, well, I don't care anymore. You know, it's about like how you ration out these unexpected moments. If you want something to feel truly bizarre, and it has to be rare as well, you know, so that way people are like, holy shit, you know, we're falling up, or whatever. So, but what else was I going to? Okay, so we don't want to do this for too much longer, because we're just going for too long. So, but are there any other things regarding this article that you guys want to, any other thoughts that you have on it? I was thinking about, because I think it's very interesting that we went away from the whole, you know, we looked at it from a social science perspective, some of the stuff that you brought up, without going down this, you know, weird power privilege, whiteness, maleness thing, and just looking at it, you know, separate from that, so that there is some valuable social science you can get out of it, but it maybe not a lot from this particular study.
Sorry, I got like a weird noise in my ear. From somebody else's.
That's my voice. I'm sorry. It's just
no. It was like Sinatra's super chat or Streamlabs thing just played for some reason. Oh no, he must. Oh god, it's something on OBS. That's fucking. I have OBS up, and someone just gave him money. God damn it. Okay. Whoops. Anyway, I think that I mentioned this off stream, which is that two very minor things to bring up to get through as quickly as possible, is that one, she states that racism is built inherently into the D&D system because the decisions, that is what race you choose, affects mechanics, and and limits who and what an individual can become.
Yeah, have you guys, I saw that. Have you guys ever heard of something called orking? I shit you not, this is a real SJW term, orking.
No, I've not heard this term.
Nope.
Perhaps is it anything to do with the whole, I've heard this fucking thing so many times, of the idea of, orcs equals black people, fucking shtick that SJWs love to hammer on because of Tolkien.
Yes, orcs equals black people, or orcs equals excluded people that are not like you, like basically people of another race, you know. And the fact that like there was someone who was talking about how, you know, we just consider orcs to be savage and evil and we just kill them, and you know, that's the end of it. And they live in a, you know, they try to like say that by doing that you're like dehumanizing them and you're more likely to be racist because orcs equals black people, which is really weird because that's kind of a racist thing to say about black people, you know. But and yeah,
it's especially jokes like, orcs are savages and are backwards, and you go into talk, it's like, oh shit, wait, orcs are literally the most industrialized race on the planet, are the most technologically advanced race on the planet, and are shitting over everyone else in terms of technological leaps forward. They're just doing it at the expense of everything around them. They are essentially an allegory for, you know, completely unhinged and anarcho-capitalism.
Aiden, were you going to say something to that, or something at all?
Oh no, I'd never heard of that.
Oh yeah,
thing.
or orking is the thing. And I believe that in this paper they refer to how Gary Gygax used to call non-human races that were playable races. He called them demi-human races, demi-human. And it was the way that the writer of this piece interpreted it, the demi-humans, was that they were less than human because they weren't human. So dwarves, gnomes, halflings, half-elves, elves, and half-orcs, I believe that's the complete list. They're all demi-humans. Yeah,
but okay, but how does that affect how the races play? Does it in some way make them lesser than humans in the way that their stats actually work? Oh no!
Quite the contrary. In earlier editions, they were all explicitly superior to humans in every single way.
So fuck off. Sorry,
yeah,
but
really.
I mean, you know, that's the basic thing about it.
Yeah.
The only thing that she cites is like, humans are the only race who can go to level 20 in pretty much every single class. Now, that would be great. Well, they're also the only ones who can multi-class, like pure on multi-class. But what does that actually, you know, translate to within the system? They are strictly worse.
Well,
those things are just more versatile.
Exact versatility is the human thing, and you know, like even though I have not played a whole hell of a lot of tabletop games in a long ass time, it makes me think a lot of my favorite game, probably the thing that I like sort of built my channel's aesthetics around a little bit, was Final Fantasy XI. And the whole thing about the humans in that game is that they are arguably the worst race to pick, because although they're really middle of the road on everything, that also makes them middle of the road on everything. So you know, you the only thing that they excel in is the invisible statistic, and I do mean invisible stat of charisma. And the reason I call it invisible is because in that game in particular, we have no way of being able to, unless they've changed it in the last couple, like 3 years, determining what charisma actually does. So, in that game, and I thought that was like, that's super interesting. You know, every other race has something that they're very good at. And I guess you could call that racist. I think that's the idea, but is it, so what did she say? She also brought up some things like,
I think that's race realist though.
Right, okay, it's race realism. She said that the monk class is by nature racist, and that classes like monk are, quote, representative of the racist and sexist culture of American, Canadian, and British gamers.
What?
Yeah, it's
Wait, what does the monk have to do? And when we say monk, guys, if you don't know D&D, the monks are not like Friar Tuck type monks. They're more like martial artists, like Shaolin monks.
Martials.
Yeah, they're like a Shaolin monks, martial artists. So, Go on. What were you saying?
That's it. She just says that. She just says that the monk class is racist.
She cites Oriental Adventures as like a negative example, despite the fact that Oriental Adventures as a book has like one of the more in-depth representations of Eastern culture in a Western.
Yeah, it was also one of
media.
the.
It has an incredibly in-depth system of like Wu Gen, Shugenja, the different class structures of. Like, it is actually set in Rokugan for the most part, I believe, at least in one version, and so it outlines the interaction between like the noble classes, the serf classes, the priestly and ascetic classes, and also the courtiers and the instances of like tea ceremony and of innuendo and etiquette. It's insanely in depth. That's why most people don't bloody play it, because it's so fucking involved.
Yeah, and
also there's culture shock involved. Like, if you tell someone like, okay, at some point in this game, you may be called upon to have your character kill themselves because of some other person's fuck up.
Right? Yeah, that's astounding. But I mean, apparently that's fucking racist. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, because I think we're trying to wrap up here, is you guys both have DM'd a lot. I have never DM'd or GM'd, whatever you prefer, and. What did you think about the paragraph on essentially, I would say what she does in this article is...
What page are we looking at?
It says that there's a power differential, a class difference, and by class I don't mean job in terms of a game. I mean almost like a communist-esque class difference or struggle between the player and the GM.
What page is that on? Because I want to read it out to the people. What page is it on, Aydin? Do you know where it is?
No, I mean it's fairly significant portion where she just talks about it. It's on page 11.
Okay.
It's pretty much the whole page.
I see it.
And I mean,
Dungeon Masters and the dynamics of play and power. Okay. I won't read it all out, but I think we get the idea. So I'll let Bill
she talks about how like the screen, it separates you. It's like, are you like, have you? Okay, I can tell you've never played this fucking game. Like, Bill, we can't have a conversation because we're in a different class.
There's a screen. It's like the velvet rope.
Who left all these damn PCs on my lawn? Jeffrey, get me my PC beating stick. This is. They're moving in, they're ruining the fucking neighborhood. Come on, give me my screen. Okay. Seriously, like, you've got to be. There are some DMs who run this way, who run this
I know.
Really fucked up, like, adversarial relationship, and I can't really talk in that regard because every single game I am in gets fucking just devolves into backstabbing and assholery because I run shit like a fucking I don't run shit like a despot. I run really weird, like, secretive games where
You're incredibly fair. My character should have died like 10 episodes ago, very much so. Like, and Nuka is supposed to have died about what, like 30 times.
He has died.
He has died.
He's been resurrected each time because ritualist is a ritualist. It's just like she didn't even cite really good examples of this, where it's like. Gary Gygax has been on record saying the only reason a DM rolls dice is for the sound. Now, there are a lot of examples of Gary Gygax just being kind of a shitty DM. Because he's one of those DMs like, okay, you've bothered me too much, I'm running Tomb of Horrors.
Oh, that was actually the last... you know what, I lied. I said that the last time I really played was... as a teenager, and I said, we played a couple of GURPS games. No, I played for 2 sessions as a freshman in college, and I don't remember what edition it was because they were not very helpful people. And the DM was this guy who said, my goal is to make you not have fun at this game. And he made me not have fun, that's sure. Like, I mean, he killed my character within about 5 minutes. And I was like, all right, okay, so now we have to go back to me re-rolling a character, and that's going to take forever. What the fuck was the purpose of this?
Right.
And, wow, what bullshit. I did that. I did it about twice.
DMs like that are literally a joke in the community. Like, you get into, I think the third Gamers movie, and as the guy who brings a pad of Bard characters, he's like, I can do this all fucking day. Keep on killing. Take cover behind the wall of dead bards. Like,
yeah.
The adversarial DM is rightfully so reviled because it just, congratulations, you wasted everyone's time.
That's how I've always perceived it, and it's not just you've wasted my time, you wasted your time, and you wasted everyone else here's time, because now I have to go and do shit again, and you have to do shit again.
There is no bigger crime in the business than wasting people's time.
Yeah.
If someone's going to die, they're going to die because it's dramatic and impactful, and because they usually fucking deserved it.
Yeah, they
always deserves it.
Fucked up, or they're really having a bad day, and the game master can't fudge forever. Basically, the way I see it, as my experience as a game master, I've had game. Whenever I play, the GM is almost always adversarial, or he's one of those that always lets the dice fall however they may, and never ever, does anything on his end. He just lets things happen however, and it's always ends with people dying that weren't supposed to, or he underestimates us or overestimates us. Often he overestimated us. So you would have, those were like bad GMs, but that's anybody who sees the position of a game master and his players as a power differential should never be allowed to run D&D, because they will ruin the game for everyone else, because that's not what you do. The way I always saw it is, when you run a D&D game well, you and your players have kind of an unspoken agreement, or maybe even overtly spoken one, that you're essentially working together to tell a good story. It's except for the fact that and to have fun, but you're working together to tell a story, except that the players have to trust the game master, because he knows everything that they don't know, right? He knows all that's going to happen and what he has planned, so they have to trust him to to help them tell a good story. But the players are also, the game master has to kind of allow the players to, take some risks, encourage them to do stuff, because if you play in this really adversarial way, not only are you going to waste people's time and kill them off, but you're actually going to get players that don't respond to it well, because they're going to be like, well, I don't want to die, so I'm not going to open that door unless I check everything. I'm not going to interact with this NPC. I'm not going to drink that thing that you gave me. I'm going to basically, sort of hide from all the content. And then you'll also get people who just don't show up. And usually, to what Bill's point is, most of the time, these kind of game masters that play this way, where they think that they're against the players, they don't last very long in terms of their popularity. Like, nobody wants to play with them anymore. They usually lose players, especially unless those people are their friends and they don't have a choice. Otherwise, they work out a different way of doing things. So this idea that it's a power thing, it's just flat out incorrect. And this is a person you do not want to run a game. Ever.
I would say that this paragraph, more than everything else, which is so bad about this text, was what made it absolutely clear to me that she had a fundamental misunderstanding of what this is about.
Okay. What's the page? Or is you talking about the DM thing?
The DM thing, that she has a fundamental, just does not understand what's happening here. In any, you spent 24 months, you spent 2 years. According to her, she spent 2 years collecting data in order to write this 10-page paper, okay? What you have provided for me here in this bit about the DM stuff, about this power differential, to more than all of the other retardation, proves to me that you don't get it. Do you know what I mean? You just, it's lost upon you. Anyway, I think we should finish up. Bilda, you said you had like some unique experiences or things to add that I've been fucking waiting for you to get to.
let's hear it. That's fine.
The Paizo devs. Now, this is going to really feel like I'm subtweeting.
Okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, Paizo is the company that developed Pathfinder, which is essentially carrying on the work of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, but also Paizo is full and run by social justice warriors and feminists. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. This is a person who's called Jessica Price. She's a project manager at Paizo. She was up until 2017. Now, what people don't know, unless they were on the forums back in the day, this was about the time when they started wheeling out. They had this whole brouhaha about the god of the hunt, whose name suddenly escapes, Erastil, is sexist because he basically believes in very old like traditions of family values. The family needs to stick together no matter what. The man goes out and hunts. The female relationship stays home and looks after the children, etc. All that shit, because he's a primal deity from back in the day before society was even a thing. Really.
Fucking patriarch. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a patriarchal deity. And they had this massive row because one dev had alleged that it was not originally going to be like that. It was going to be really inclusive and all that. And someone else changed it and all this horseshit. But Ms. Price, her response to this was in this whole fucking shtick, she went on something of a tirade in which she referred to women who have children as brood mothers and referred to testosterone as the root element in violence.
Whoa.
And other such things. Jessica Price is also literally just a project manager at the company. So the fact she's even on the forums spouting this kind of shit is bewildering. I was actually vocal about this back in the day. It's like, who's the fucking PR manager? Why are the devs just allowed to run around causing scenes in the forums? This is fucking unprofessional. And I say this as someone who later went on to, like, I wasn't a full-on dev. I moonlit for a bunch of devs, worked on a lot of Dreamscard Prices stuff. And just to see these people essentially reacting in the least professional manner possible and basically spouting a bunch of really sexist horseshit. Like, you run into this shit so much with Paizo. They claim to be a very feminist, very liberal company, and yet you dig into it. Like, for instance, Asmodeus. I think we're all fairly familiar with Asmodeus if we've played D&D.
Asmodeus, yeah. He's like charming devil. He's like classic Satan. Yeah.
Did you know in as of the Distant Shores expansion for Pathfinder, did you know he is actually worshipped in one region as a lawful neutral trickster deity?
No, I didn't know that.
I brought up the page at the Shrine of the Wily Linguist, which I'm sure is definitely not a pun on cunning linguist. Asmodeus is worshipped in the city of. It's in the Eliosos, in a city called Anuli, which is the city of new beginnings. Asmodeus is worshipped as a deity of very precise legal proceedings, kind of like a lawyer deity, kind of a.
That's funny.
Bunny ears lawyer thing,
sure.
and in a very tiny neurotic church of archivists and arbiters (quotation). And guess what? Do you want to know the main aspect that differentiates this version of Asmodeus from the others? This version of Asmodeus is explicitly female.
Okay.
So, regular Asmodeus, evil as shit dude, and explicitly misogynistic. Explicitly, like the fact that there is a faction within Hell called the Whore Queens, who are a bunch of Irinye that he basically pissed off to the degree where they started competing with each other, and he's had them trapped in middle management for fucking centuries, steadily getting better at their jobs, I might add. And he runs Hell Asmodeus and Pathfinder is essentially just Crowley.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's a suit-wearing asshole who just puts everyone against everyone else and writes really shady contracts. And then you suddenly run to him as a female lawyer / trickster deity. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then you don't even get me started on the shit that happens in fucking Wrath of the Righteous, where characters are literally selling magical weaponry in order to get shady malfunctioning potions or gender change. You couldn't have fucking painted a bigger target on this character's back. You have a character being trans doesn't need to be their sole defining aspect. You can just have a character.
That's what always irritates me about that, is that I didn't even play it. Well, what was the new Baldur's Gate expansion they put out a year ago? Now,
the enhanced
edition. And I didn't play it. I did not play it. But those kinds of I mean, obviously, I believe Vesta had Thaco in it, so that would have had to have been AD&D, yeah?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, that's old. That goes way back. Yeah.
See, I don't know how to respond to not having Thaco. I'm still like confused.
Don't worry.
About no Thaco.
I space that bonus. That's all it is.
It's just a rolling, like the lower the number, the better.
I'm saying I'm confused by not having Thaco because that's like how my brain works. Is because all of my favorite, my whole brain. Not just because of learning from AD&D, but because of most of my favorite video games actually work off of the Thaco system. So I get confused when it gets removed. But
yeah.
No, when they released that shit though, it was like there had never been any questioning or confusion or anything about that about trans characters. And then you walk up to a character who's like, let me tell you all about how exactly I became trans in a way that now there's always lots of information that characters in games like Baldur's Gate will tell you if you press them on it. But it was just so poorly written. Because normally it would just sort of be a thing because we're talking about a universe where this is not unusual, you know? We're talking about a world in which someone changing genders, for example, is actually not that bizarre. It's a thing that could potentially happen. Maybe not to your everyday peasant, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility or so odd. And that's actually what made it more odd in context. Again, I haven't played it. I just saw the clips and I was like, oof, that seems out of place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that really... Did they even use the word trans?
No, they said, like, I was a woman born in a man's body. I always knew, and I found a way to change it. And they go on and on about it, and it's like the primary conversation you have with this character.
I mean,
it's been a year since I've seen it.
Yeah, sure. No, that's what I mean. Like, it's not that I have a problem with it being there, but you know, it just kind of yanks people out of the experience, I think. Like, it stands out. I don't care if you're pro or against. If you're playing the game and all of a sudden somebody launches into something that sounds a little bit too contemporary for the game setting, it's just going to pull you out of the experience. You're going to say, well, wait, why is this
I don't know.
here?
It doesn't have to be contemporary. Like, I know I'm talking about video games, but another video game that did this masterfully, and I bring it up all the time when talking about this subject, is Fallout New Vegas. Because there's two gay characters in that game, and you would never know they were gay unless you actually spoke to them for a while.
Right, yeah.
I think
I know what you're talking about.
Masterfully done characters.
No, you can absolutely do it well. Like I said, there's a way to do it. There's one way that it feels natural and it makes sense and it fits in and it's very smooth. And there are ways like your Baldur's Gate example where it just yanks people. Like, you don't feel like you're talking to a person. You feel like you're talking to a set of talking points that are being presented to you. That's what I mean by that. Like in The Last of Us, there's a character that you interact with that helps you navigate a portion of the game who is gay, but you don't learn that he's gay until at the end. At
the very end.
Yeah, at the end of that segment. And I was like, oh, he's gay, you know? But I was like, wow, that was very tastefully done. Exactly. Who cares? But it was done well. And that's just it. Like, you know, that's what I'm getting at. So
I think the point behind all of that, though, is that what is absurd about a paper like this is that has always been the way that tabletop role-playing games have been operated, is that you can be whoever you want. Is that not the absolute, outright stated purpose?
Yeah, and when you get characters who are like, oh, by the way, I'm trans, like, congratulations, you successfully made that person, you successfully dehumanized that character. Because you reduced them to your mouthpiece to try and virtue signal. Like, just have them be people. It's not that difficult. The best way to get someone who is vehemently anti-trans or what have you into the whole idea of, you know, maybe trans people have fucking feelings, is to have a character who is actually compelling, who happens to be trans.
Oh yeah, I got so much research on that. You're correct though, Bill.
Yeah,
because it's the worst they'll do is say, "Oh, you pulled the fucking rug out from under my feet." It's like,
yeah,
then maybe you should have been watching where you stepped. Like,
absolutely,
kind of
absolutely. It's you
like
present.
There are like even like this has been done well before. Like if like I know Catherine isn't exactly in terms of games isn't exactly the best example of game that is incredibly story driven. Definitely not feminism, but when you have a character there is a character in Catherine who is trans, but you never find out about it until like one ending. And if you go into the extended version, it turns out that character has some entanglements with what would otherwise be considered like a strictly, like that person was born a man,
right?
But he's got entanglements with the game's wider themes of like Sumerian deities, and is explicitly like related to a goddess of fertility, which is incredibly interesting as an aspect, all things considered. Like having a trans character who is explicitly, not able to fill that role personally, be an embodiment of that role itself.
Well, Catherine's a fantastic game for a reason. Yeah. I think Catherine's one of those. Well, it's Suda, isn't it?
No, I don't think it is. It's the developer of Persona, the Persona games.
No, not Suda. Yeah, it's the Persona people, right?
Yeah.
They're usually pretty good about that mythology stuff. They're usually on top of their point. I mean, even if it's very superficial, they do some research on things like that. And I actually haven't played Catherine now. God damn, it's probably been 5-6 years. That's a great game though in that way. But this is the whole thing, is that to make such claims such as this person does about D&D are absurdist and limited, and they paint a very large swath of people, a game, or a system of games, if they want to call it that, in a very limited and, I would say, reductionist light. To say that this is racist, this is sexist, this is, and I am trying not to misinterpret the author. But here's the thing. Excuse me, what's your name? Alice? Let's see, what's her name?
The author? I thought it was
Antero it's a man?
Antero Garcia. Yeah, maybe.
Antero? Is that a man's name? Oh my god, this whole time I think we've been calling.
Did you just assume Antero's gender?
I think I assumed Antero's
show
gender.
You that male pronouns aren't exactly like the go-to for gamers these days.
It says that that's a Finnish name. Well, I don't think it's Finnish in this case.
That's not Finnish.
Not Garcia. Not Garcia.
I think Antero is a masculine version.
It's the Spanish version of Antero.
Andrew is what it says here. Okay. Well, I have assumed this was a woman the whole time, and that was very sexist of me, I suppose. God damn it. I have said she so many times and misgendered Antero. Well, Antero. I don't think you really knew what you were talking about here, and there's nothing wrong with going in and doing field research. But the problem with doing field research when it comes to human populations is that the human population can respond.
There you go.
Such as it has.
All right. Well, I got a couple. So I got a couple super chats, but before I do, so I guess what you would you say that this paper is good or bad social science?
I would say Antero tried. You could say where's the star where it says there was an attempt?
Yes, that derpy looking star that says an attempt was made.
There was an attempt.
Yeah.
An attempt was made. I actually don't fault him or think any ill will of anyone or most of these people. I don't think they actually normally have malintent. I think they just don't understand what the fuck they're talking about, and they come into these things. Oh, something that got cut off when we got cut off. Really quickly, guys, and this is to Bill heard me say this, but Brian and the entire audience, if you're ever reading a piece of particularly qualitative research, stuff like this, that's ethnographical, meaning I went into a community and I made some notes. Check for a segment called Statement of Biases or something to that sort of degree, because any study of real repute will have a thing that says, hey, here are my biases that I went into the study with. Here are the things that I believed before I started studying this. You need to look for that. This study does not have that section. It does have an acknowledgement section, but at no point does he say, by the way, here's what I believed before I started my research. That's a really, really big red flag. Just when you're reading research, when you're, being scientifically diligent, if qualitative data look for that sort of statement.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A little word about Antero Garcia. Antero Garcia is an assistant professor in the Graduate School of Education at Stanford University. He taught English at a public high school in South Central Los Angeles for 8 years and co-designed at the Critical Design and Gaming School. So just a little bit about the person who authored this piece. Now, super chats. French Honey Badger.
Education department.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, in a much smaller department, communication studies, which is my field, there's about 300 graduate students at Stanford. So he is in a department of about 500 to 600 people would be my guess, Rooney. He's...
Yeah, probably. And
he also looks disturbingly like Leafy.
Oh my god, Leafy.
Just a little bit, not in the nose like Shu has, but not the rest of the face.
And so... I'm going to read the super chats while you guys are looking at that. French Honey Badger gave us $5. Yeah. He gave us $5 and says, an ANCAP race, sign me in. Also, And Terry Butler gives us $10 and says, trans characters aren't necessarily a bad thing. No, of course not. I used a gender swap trap on one of my players. Oh, a gender swap trap. It was a trap, not a trap. The party spent an entire story arc getting ingredients for an alchemist to fix it as a side. Why would you want to fix it, you transphobe? Why wouldn't you be happy in the body that you were given by fate? Anyway.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm going to go ahead and take us out, but let me once again thank you guys for joining us on this kind of cringy, painful journey of crashes, but we went through it without a hitch this time. I will go in and stitch these videos together so they are one cohesive thing, and this won't happen again. I want to thank Aydin and Bill for coming on so much, and I want to do more of these minus the crashes. So Aydin,
now
if
we want more crashes, man.
If we got all the crashes.
This stream with no survivors.
If I get more interesting social science papers like this, would you be willing to come on and go through the cancer with me?
Oh, anytime, dude. I love cancer.
Okay, good.
Wait, that doesn't sound right. Oh well.
I've already spent
in the Tuesday game. We already know what you mean.
We spent time with cancer. It's fine. So yeah, we're gonna try and make this a semi-regular thing. I'd like to do Doge and Aydin more often, and with additional guests if they can provide input. So thanks, Bill, for coming on and sharing your experience. Sorry that we didn't get a chance to get into the problems with Al Qadim, even though I liked Al Qadim, and Maztica, which is actually a game I also own, but
all these Al Qadim apologists.
All right, so Field of Bears gives us $5 real quick and says, surprise, surprise, Professor is a commie. A professor is a commie who identifies the rules of a game as a problem. Of course, because it involves hierarchies based. I thought that he was going to go into levels. I swear, I don't know if he did, but I thought he was going to go into levels to say, characters can go up in levels, which is like going up in your hierarchy because it makes you better than people that are lower level than you are. I'm surprised he didn't go down that route.
Where if you got to level 9 as a fighter, you became a lord by default.
Yeah.
That's
you had upward mobility based on your level of aptitude.
That sounds so classist. All right,
well if he's out there watching and probably trying to see if he can have me knifed at some point, I'll fucking DM for you, dude. I don't give a shit. I'll DM for anyone.
I don't think he's actually interested in the game. I think that was sort of the point.
I know, but I thought I'd throw the gauntlet down.
Well, he should probably play in a game, but with a good game master, because those adversarial ones, if you're like the first time player and you get one of those guys, there's a pretty good chance that people never play D&D again because of that experience. And I've seen that happen. So don't be a shitty game master. If you're going to play it that way, don't do it at all. Give it to somebody else or learn how to do it. Get good, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So anyway, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and take us out of the show. Thank you so much, Aydin. Thank you, Bill. And thank you guys for putting up with my bullshit. I'll talk to you guys in the next... Before we go,
can I just read one little thing that I've just stumbled across in the Art of D&D book, which I think is a nice way to close this out.
Go ahead.
Because it's a quotation, it's a caption to the painting Moondragon Summer by Ben Otero. And the picture in question is a woman in modest dress with a waistcoat and a longsword on her hip. And the caption is this: "Why can't you play with your dolls like the other girls?" Your mother moaned time and time again. "I just don't know what to do with you, Summer. I cringe to think you won the Golden Cup for swordsmanship 3 years in a row. It's so becoming of a young lady."
Well, that is a good way to end it. So, again, thanks, guys, for joining us on the very first, hopefully of many more, Doge and Aydin show.